Stephen Hawking spent his entire life searching for answers to the biggest questions in the universe. Even as his body slowly failed him, his mind remained sharp, constantly probing the mysteries that surround our existence. One question haunted him more than any other: what happens when we die? Before his passing in 2018, Hawking left us with thoughts that might forever change how we think about death, consciousness, and what lies beyond our final breath. Before we dive deeper into Hawking's fascinating perspective on death and what comes after, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop a comment below and let me know your city or country. And if you're finding this exploration as intriguing as I am, please hit that like button and subscribe for more thought-provoking content about the mysteries of our universe. To understand Hawking's view of death, we first need to grasp how he saw the human brain. Unlike many who believe in a soul separate from our physical body, Hawking viewed consciousness as something that emerges from the complex workings of our brain cells. Think of it like a symphony orchestra. Each musician plays their part, but the beautiful music only exists when they all work together. Remove the musicians and the music stops. In Hawking's view, remove the brain and consciousness simply ends. This perspective might seem cold or frightening at first, but Hawking found it liberating. He often compared the brain to a computer. Just as a computer stops working when its components fail, our consciousness ceases when our brain can no longer function. There's no mysterious force that continues on, no ghost in the machine that survives the breakdown of our physical form. But here's where Hawking's thinking becomes truly fascinating. He didn't see this as the end of our story. Instead, he believed that understanding death this way actually makes life more precious, not less. If this is our only chance, then every moment becomes incredibly valuable. Every relationship, every experience, every act of kindness carries weight because it might be all we have. Hawking often spoke about how his diagnosis with motor neuron disease at age 21 gave him this perspective early in life. Doctors told him he had 2 years to live. Instead of falling into despair, he threw himself into his work with renewed passion. He married, had children, and made groundbreaking discoveries about black holes and the nature of time itself. The knowledge that his time was limited didn't paralyze him. It energized him. This brings us to one of Hawking's most profound insights about death. He suggested that the fear of death often prevents us from truly living. When we spend our energy worrying about what comes after, we miss the wonder of what's happening right now. He found beauty in the fact that we are made of the same atoms that formed in the hearts of dying stars billions of years ago. In a very real sense, we are the universe becoming conscious of itself, even if only briefly. Consider this remarkable fact. The calcium in our bones, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our DNA, all of these elements were forged in the nuclear furnaces of massive stars that lived and died long before our solar system even existed. When those ancient stars exhausted their fuel, they exploded in spectacular supernovas, scattering these precious elements across space. Eventually, gravity pulled this stellar debris together to form new stars, planets, and ultimately, us. Hawking found this scientific story far more awe-inspiring than any traditional tale of afterlife. We are literally made of stardust, temporary arrangements of cosmic material that happen to organize itself in such a way that it can think, feel, love, and wonder about its own existence. What are the odds of such an incredible coincidence? The universe had to be just right, not too hot, not too cold, with just the right physical laws for conscious beings like us to emerge. This perspective led Hawking to a beautiful conclusion about death. When we die, the atoms that make up our bodies don't disappear. They return to the earth, to the cycle of life and death that has been going on for billions of years. Some of those atoms might become part of a tree, or a flower, or even another conscious being someday. In this way, we are part of something much larger and more enduring than our individual existence. But what about the experiences we accumulate during our brief time here? Hawking believed these matter enormously, even if they don't survive our death in some mystical form. Every act of creativity, every moment of love, every scientific discovery adds something to the human story. We may not live on personally, but our contributions to human knowledge, culture, and progress can outlast us by centuries or even millennia. Think about it this way. Hawking himself will be remembered long after his physical death because his ideas changed how we understand the universe. His work on black holes, his popular science books, and his inspirational personal story continue to influence people around the world. In a very real sense, part of him lives on through the impact he had on others. This doesn't require any supernatural explanation. It's simply the natural result of how human society works. We build on the discoveries and wisdom of those who came before us. Every generation stands on the shoulders of previous generations, reaching a little higher, seeing a little farther. When you teach a child something important, when you create something beautiful, when you show kindness to a stranger, you're adding your thread to the tapestry of human experience. Hawking also had fascinating thoughts about the nature of time and how it relates to death. His work in physics showed that time isn't the simple, flowing river we often imagine it to be. At the quantum level, the very small scale where the fundamental particles operate, time can behave in strange and counterintuitive ways. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that all moments in time exist simultaneously from the universe's perspective. If this is true, then in some sense, every moment of your life, from your first breath to your last, exists eternally in the fabric of space-time. The moment you were born, your first day of school, your wedding day, the birth of your children, all of these experiences are permanently woven into the structure of reality itself. They don't cease to exist just because our consciousness can no longer access them. This idea offers a kind of immortality that doesn't require belief in an afterlife. Your entire life story, with all its joys and sorrows, triumphs and struggles, becomes part of the permanent record of the universe. It's a record that no one may ever read in its entirety, but it exists nonetheless. You were here. You mattered. The universe is different because you existed. Hawking's approach to death also emphasized the importance of meaning-making during life. Since he didn't believe consciousness continues after death, he felt we have a responsibility to make our lives count while we're here. This doesn't mean we all need to become famous scientists or change the world in dramatic ways. It means recognizing that our capacity to experience wonder, to love others, to create beauty, and to understand our place in the cosmos is extraordinary and shouldn't be wasted. Consider the simple act of watching a sunset. The light reaching your eyes traveled 93 million miles from the sun. The colors you see result from the way our atmosphere scatters different wavelengths of light. The emotional response you feel has been shaped by millions of years of evolution. The sunset itself is possible because our planet orbits at just the right distance from a stable star. All of these factors had to align perfectly for you to have that experience. Hawking would say that recognizing the incredible chain of cosmic events that led to such a simple moment makes it more meaningful, not less. We don't need the promise of eternal life to appreciate the miracle of temporary existence. The fact that conscious beings like us exist at all in this vast, mostly empty universe is so improbable that it borders on the miraculous. This scientific worldview also shaped how Hawking thought about grief and loss. When someone we love dies, the pain is real and profound. But Hawking would remind us that the love we shared was also real. The memories we created together actually changed the physical structure of our brains. In a very literal sense, the people we love become part of us, and that part doesn't die when they do. Moreover, the influence our loved ones had on us continues to shape our actions and decisions long after they're gone. A parent's wisdom, a friend's encouragement, a partner's love. These things modify who we are in ways that persist throughout our own lives. When we pass these influences on to others, we help ensure that something of those we've lost continues to ripple through the world. Hawking's perspective on death wasn't without its critics. Many people find comfort in religious or spiritual beliefs about an afterlife, and Hawking understood this. He never claimed to have definitive proof that consciousness ends with death. Science, he often said, is about following the evidence wherever it leads and being honest about the limits of what we can know for certain. What the evidence does suggest, according to Hawking, is that consciousness is closely tied to brain function. When the brain is damaged by injury or disease, consciousness changes in predictable ways. When the brain stops functioning entirely, there's no scientific evidence that consciousness continues in any form. This doesn't prove that some form of afterlife is impossible, but it does suggest that if it exists, it operates through mechanisms we don't currently understand. Hawking also acknowledged that the scientific view of death might not provide the emotional comfort that many people need when facing their own mortality or the loss of loved ones. He wasn't trying to take away anyone's faith or hope. Instead, he was offering an alternative way of finding meaning and peace in the face of death, one based on our current understanding of how the universe works. This alternative approach focuses on gratitude rather than fear. Instead of worrying about what we might lose when we die, we can feel amazed by what we've been given during life. The odds against your existence were astronomical. Your parents had to meet and fall in love. Their parents had to do the same, going back through thousands of generations. Each of your ancestors had to survive long enough to reproduce. One small change in this chain of events, and you would never have existed at all. But you do exist. You won the cosmic lottery in the most spectacular way possible. You get to experience consciousness, to witness the beauty of the universe, to love and be loved, to learn and grow and create. These experiences don't become less valuable because they're temporary. If anything, their fleeting nature makes them more precious. Hawking often used the analogy of a candle to describe human life. A candle doesn't burn forever, but while it burns, it creates light and warmth. The light touches everything around it, casting shadows, illuminating faces, making it possible for life to flourish in its glow. When the candle finally burns out, the light doesn't go to some other realm, it simply ends. But the warmth it provided, the moments it illuminated, the life it made possible, these effects continue to ripple outward long after the flame is gone. In his final years, as his disease progressed and his body became increasingly frail, Hawking seemed to embody this philosophy. He continued working almost until the end, driven by curiosity about the universe and a desire to share what he had learned. He didn't waste energy fearing death or raging against his physical limitations. Instead, he focused on making the most of whatever time he had left. This approach to mortality has practical implications for how we choose to live. If this life is all we have, then procrastination becomes a form of tragedy. Putting off important conversations, delaying expressions of love, waiting for someday to pursue our dreams. All of these common human tendencies take on new urgency when viewed through Hawking's lens. But this urgency doesn't have to create anxiety. Instead, it can inspire us to be more present, more grateful, more intentional about how we spend our days. Every sunrise becomes a gift we didn't have to receive. Every laugh with a friend becomes a small miracle. Every act of kindness becomes a way of adding light to the world during our brief time here. Hawking's message about death ultimately returns to his fundamental belief in the power of human curiosity and understanding. He spent his life trying to comprehend the deepest mysteries of existence, not because he expected to solve them all, but because the search itself was worthwhile. The questions we ask, the knowledge we gain, the wonder we feel when contemplating the cosmos, these things give our lives meaning regardless of what happens after we die. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us, and it's certainly under no obligation to provide us with eternal life. But somehow, through processes we're still trying to understand, it gave us consciousness. It gave us the ability to contemplate our own existence, to feel love and joy and awe, to create art and music and literature, to discover the laws that govern reality itself. From Hawking's perspective, this is enough. More than enough, it's extraordinary. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, even if only temporarily. When we die, that particular window of cosmic self-awareness closes, but new ones continue to open as new conscious beings are born and begin their own journey of discovery. Perhaps the most comforting aspect of Hawking's view is that it removes the fear and uncertainty that often surrounds death. There's no judgment to face, no test to pass, no punishment to fear. Death is simply a return to the state we were in before we were born, a state that caused us no suffering because we weren't there to experience it. This perspective can help us approach death with dignity and peace, whether it's our own death or the death of those we love. Instead of fighting against the natural end of life, we can focus on making our remaining time as meaningful and joyful as possible. We can say the things that need to be said, do the things that matter most, and find ways to ensure that our positive influence on the world outlasts our physical presence. Stephen Hawking's message from beyond isn't delivered through supernatural means or mystical communications. It comes through the ideas he shared, the example he set, and the way he chose to face his own mortality with courage and grace. His life demonstrated that we don't need the promise of an afterlife to find meaning, purpose, and even joy in the face of death. The atoms that made up Hawking's brilliant mind have now returned to the cosmic cycle from which they came. Someday, they might become part of a new star, a distant planet, or another thinking being who will gaze up at the night sky and wonder about their place in the universe. In this way, the physical substance of one of our greatest thinkers continues its eternal journey through space and time. But perhaps more importantly, the ideas Hawking shared continue to shape how we understand ourselves and our universe. His courage in facing a devastating disease, his determination to keep working despite overwhelming physical challenges, and his ability to find wonder and humor even in the darkest circumstances. These qualities inspire millions of people around the world. This is Hawking's true message about death, that our temporary existence is not a cosmic accident or cruel joke, but an incredible opportunity. We have been given the gift of consciousness in a universe that is vast, ancient, and mostly empty. We can choose to spend our brief time here in fear and despair, or we can choose to embrace the wonder of being alive at all. The choice, as it always has been, is ours. We can look up at the stars and feel small and insignificant, or we can remember that we are made of the same material as those stars and feel connected to something magnificent and eternal. We can fear death as an ending, or we can see it as a natural part of the cosmic story in which we've been privileged to play a small but meaningful role. Stephen Hawking chose wonder over fear, curiosity over despair, and courage over retreat. His message to us is simple. Make the most of your time here, because it's the only time you're guaranteed to have. Love deeply, learn constantly, create boldly, and remember that you are part of something far grander than yourself. In doing so, you honor not just your own existence, but the incredible chain of cosmic events that made your consciousness possible in the first place. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stephen Hawking's profound thoughts about death and what comes after. If this perspective has given you something new to think about, please share it with others by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How do you find meaning in life when facing the reality of death? What aspects of Hawking's philosophy resonate most with you? Your insights help make these discussions richer for everyone who joins us in pondering these eternal questions.